I appreciate and love FIFA more than anything else, and I only want to do the best for football and for FIFA, our institution.
I'd love FIFA too if I could bilk millions of dollars out of him. Bill McDermott is our guest. He is a soccer analyst, world-renowned. He's also the voice of the St. Louis FC right here on the Big 550 KTRS. Good morning, Bill McDermott.
Hi, McGraw. How are you?
So how surprised, people only know about FIFA, don't really follow it all that much. You follow this very closely. The scandal, I guess, burst when they first started arresting all these people, right?
Well, actually, the suspicions really heightened at the 2010 vote when they awarded the World Cups to
Qatar.
Russia in 2018,
right,
which is dicey to begin with.
Right.
But then above and beyond all suspicions, awarding a World Cup to Qatar for 2022, which is a non-starter from the very get-go.
Okay, so that's when people were like, all right, this is dirty.
All the eyebrows were raised. Everybody was hoping they were bribed. Why else would they have a World Cup in Qatar?
Well, they had one at the Amazon River where they had to ship down the contents to build a stadium in the middle of nowhere.
This was another brilliant decision by FIFA, for which they don't get enough heat, I don't think, and that is the garish excess. They played 4 games in Manaus, which is in the Amazonian Valley in Brazil in 2014. That stadium sits there now, not being used. There isn't a club team there, and it was to the tune of over $200 million.
Yeah, no, it's criminal. Okay, so, but then after they're arrested, this FIFA president gets reelected 3 days later.
The unkindest cut of all. Amidst all this stuff, the raiding of the luxurious hotel in Switzerland, all these speculations that are now really probably going to be accurate, and most certainly in some cases definitely are. On the next day, he has the audacity to be a part of the election, but evidently something clicked over the weekend or perhaps yesterday when Jerome Valcke, his right-hand man, was accused of being suspicious of putting money to the tune of $10 million in Jack Warner's account. Jack Warner, who, by the way, without any question whatsoever, is definitely dirty in all this. Jack Warner was the former president of the CONCACAF region. That's the region where the United States plays. So consequently, maybe his hand was really forced. Maybe he saw the proverbial writing on the wall. But as I mentioned too when we first started talking, the World Cup being awarded to Qatar in 2022 was a bribe too far.
Okay, so he steps down, but what happens going forward? Does this help soccer, or does this destroy soccer?
The former. It really helps soccer because it's going to be an entire new regime with different types of things being looked at. Term limits for the president. He was president for too long, 17 years, going into his 5th term, as you just pointed out. The executive committee will be appointed in a entirely different way. Term limits for those people as well. So there's going to be an entire revamping of the overall system at FIFA, which was a long time coming.
So we saw this similar with the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
How similar was this scandal with the Olympics, and how did the Olympics... It seems like the Olympics solved their bribing problem. Mm-hmm. Is that accurate?
That's positively accurate, yes. Yeah. And I think this is solved now. Let's be serious about this. When John Dean, by the way, who was just on your show, went to the president and said, Mr. President, there's a cancer on the presidency. There has been a cancer on the presidency, and the overall naming rights of so many things all hand in hand with FIFA. So there were tons of suspicions earlier just because of the way things were being handled, and now they've all come to fruition with 100% accuracy, I think.
How much of this do you look back and you say, boy, the U.S. got a bad draw in that region, and the U.S. got a bad draw in this, and that was a bad call over here? I mean, how much can you go back and look and say this is part of the bribery scandal?
I don't know if you can look quite that deeply, but they did get a horrible group at the Brazilian World Cup, as a matter of fact, playing with the eventual champions, Germany,
right,
who have a new golden generation of players, if you will, playing against Portugal in Manaus, no less, having to chase Ronaldo around for 90 minutes.
Right.
But they, as they have done in past World Cups, most recently in the last 2 or 3, they've caught the imagination of everybody in the United States with the sport by advancing against astounding odds to the next rounds.
Yeah. All right, so is the World Cup going to stay in Russia? Is it going to stay in Qatar?
They have said there's going to be no revote. Now, they said that last week when FIFA took over, when Blatter took over in his new term as presidency. That could dramatically change now.
Yeah.
As
What
a
do
matter
you
of fact,
think?
I think it's a distinct possibility it does.
Really?
Maybe not so in Russia because they can't turn the tables quite that fast for someone else to do it in 2018. Yes, they could. They could award it to the United States where there are existing venues.
Right.
But that for the World Cup to happen in that short period of time would be really dicey. But the Qatar World Cup is wrong for a variety of different reasons. The climate, which they knew from the very outset,
Right.
which is going to be 106, 120, sometimes 140 in the dead of summer. So consequently, they had to move the World Cup to December in 2022. At least that's the latest ruling, with no regard for the world's other calendars,
Right.
literally around it, which is in the middle of everybody. Look at where Qatar is on a map. Not in a real friendly part of the world,
Right.
Ever so slightly hostile, and that's putting it politely. No one's going to go there. There's migrant workers working on the stadiums now, 1,000 of which have died already in the preparation of. A lot of people from Nepal were working on these various stadiums in Qatar. When the earthquake hit Nepal, quite a few members wanted to go back to see family members' funerals. They were not allowed to do so because their passports have been kept.
Right.
Qatar's the most expensive country, the richest country in the world per capita income.
He was arrested, and they were arrested by the Swiss, which
And he is Swiss, by the way.
which is proud of its neutral status. So it wasn't like he was in an unfriendly area. The Swiss, who pride themselves on not getting involved, got involved.
And they wanted to get involved because I think more or less you can read between the lines here saying that's enough. We've had enough of this with the awarding of the various World Cup. That's the sum and substance of the whole thing. That's what really got everybody's attention. But now so many different ancillary things have taken place since then.
Yeah.
I mentioned Jack Warner with CONCACAF, Chuck Blazer, who was one of the assistants for Jack Warner in the CONCACAF region. He's already turned state's evidence. When the United States Attorney General gets involved in a case. She was involved in this case before she became the Attorney General
Right.
in New York. When she makes her existence felt and she is at the microphone, they have something.
Bill McDermott, ladies and gentlemen, soccer analyst as well as the voice of the St. Louis FC here on the Big 550 KTRS. We were talking before you got on the air. The first year of the St. Louis FC, I mean, you couldn't ask for anything better.
And you would know it, McGraw. They are doing superbly. They are 3-3 now for an expansion team. That's very good. Dale Shilley, the head coach, has told me on numerous occasions, we're still just getting acclimated to this league. We didn't know what to expect.
Right.
But 2 weeks ago on a Wednesday night, they played Minnesota from the NASL. It goes in the United States tri-level, MLS, NASL, USL. Consequently, a USL team is supposed to lose to an NASL team. Such was not the case. St. Louis FC was the better team. Now they advanced. Now they get a chance to play an MLS team Tuesday night, June 16th, in Kansas City, which is almost sold out already. This is for a Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup game. This is not an MLS League game. So everyone has been pleasantly surprised. They have a mixture of some very experienced players, some young players, with the emphasis on the youth of the team, because this already is longer than a college soccer season. This is uncharted territory for some of these young players. They're not accustomed to playing soccer this long during a season.
They're playing well on the field, but also it seems like St. Louisans have come out and
Yes.
embraced them.
Yeah, and therein lies one of the reasons why Don Garber, the commissioner for MLS, was in town 2 or 3 weeks ago. It caught his attention, caught the league's office attention. The various attendances that have been at Busch Stadium, Edward Jones Dome, and now for St. Louis FC. Things are going the right. A-pluses all the way around the way it's been handled.
The Women's World Cup gets started here when? This week? Next week?
This week.
This week.
June 6th is the first game.
Is Hope Solo going to bring home another World Cup for the U.S.?
It's a distinct possibility. They are determined. The United States women are determined. They are determined to win this World Cup. And here's another damper, however, McGraw, and this has to do with FIFA as well, because they awarded the World Cup to Canada, where the 6 different venues being used are all artificial surface. Soccer players detest artificial surface, and the fact that the Women's World Cup, the championship of your sport, is being held on artificial surface, no one's looking forward to playing on it.
Wow, that changes the whole game.
Dramatically.
Yeah.
Dramatically so. And any player will tell you that.
Yeah.
From the first player to anybody in the first 11 to the 23rd player. They will all tell you they do not like to play on artificial surface.
Last question for Bill McDermott. Question for you. Who was better in his prime, Mark Moser or the player Mark Moser thought he was?
Probably the latter. But no, everybody kids Mark, and I know he's with KTRS, and he's been great for us on our broadcast. He was a very, very good player. Tremendous left foot. And once he got his backside between the ball and the defender, you weren't getting the ball.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bill McDermott, always a pleasure. Thanks for coming
Thanks,
in.
McGraw. Thank you.
You got it. 7:30 here, Big 550 KTRS.
Hi, this is Jeff Lapidus.